is NBA Showtime, the 1996 NBA Playoffs. Here's your host, Bob Costas.
And if it's a Sunday in early May, you all know by now it must be a triple header. So we start with Game 5 of the Hawks and Pacers from Market Square. The winner plays Orlando. Then out to the Delta Center in Salt Lake. Game 5 between the Blazers and Jazz. The winner draws the San Antonio Spurs. And finally, Michael Jordan and the Bulls at the United Center against a familiar playoff foe, the New York Knicks. Hi, everybody. Use that wide camera lens, Director John Gilmartin, because there are 4 of us here. Peter Vesey down here, Dr. J as always, and we're very happy to have the one-time czar of the telestrator, current Cavalier coach Mike Fratello with us, and we'll hear from all of them in just a moment. But right to the news here at the top. It involves Reggie Miller's status for Game 5 of the Hawks and Pacers. With the latest, out to Market Square, Tom Hammond and the snapper, Steve Jones. Go ahead.
Bob, there will be a Miller moment at Market Square Arena today as Reggie returns. Reggie Miller will play today. He will be in the starting lineup for the Indiana Pacers in this Game 5. Of course, it'll be over 3 weeks since he has seen action. He was injured in a game against the Detroit Pistons April 13th, a collision with Otis Thorpe. Fractured eye socket that later required surgery. But we had an idea yesterday at practice that Reggie might be playing. He was shooting with his teammates, even ran some plays, and had that playoff chatter, that mouth that's such a big part of his game at playoff intensity. So we had an idea that he might see action today. He even came in a secret entrance to Market Square, slipping by our cameras today. So it's been very secretive, but we have the word now that he will play. In fact, just a few moments ago, Jim Gray talked with Larry Brown about the decision to have Reggie Miller play. Here's Jim.
All right, thank you very much, Tom. Larry, can you reiterate your conversation with Reggie and the decision to play?
Well, it was up to him. Donnie gave him that choice, which I think was a good one, and he wants to play. And I told him, you know, we're going to do it like it's our last game of the season, and he'll start, and he's got to let me know how he feels. But it's a big boost just to have him out there.
Now, he has practiced somewhat. He shot the ball quite a bit yesterday. How did he look, and are you concerned about any rust at all?
I'm not going to worry about that. You know, you don't expect anybody to be back at 100%.
Dealt with the current group. That's because that group will be inducted tomorrow in Springfield, Massachusetts, a group that includes a couple of former ABA greats, George Gervin, the longtime star of the San Antonio Spurs, and David Thompson, whose acrobatic style first at NC State and then with the Nuggets earned him a spot in basketball lore. Here's the complete list of tomorrow's inductees, including Gail Goodrich and the great pioneer of women's basketball, Nancy Lieberman-Klein. Congratulations to all of them. Doc, you're an old ABA guy. Special feelings for Gervin and Thompson. Here's how they sent the Suns home. Game 4 Friday night. Charles Barkley to the hole, rejected by Charles Smith. Big night for David Robinson. Slams home 2 of his 30. The Admiral again, this time from Avery Johnson. Spurs led by 10 at this point in the third quarter. They pull away in the fourth. Vinny Del Negro, icing on the cake with a late 3. He had 25. The Spurs move on. The Suns go home. And after the game, Robinson and Charles Barkley with some pleasantries. And we're joined now forever for the NBA. We're in the middle of an hour-long pregame today, so we're about a half hour away from the tip-off of Game 1 of the triple header, the Pacers and the Hawks from Indianapolis. Just a note here before we move on to look at the Knicks and Bulls. Former Bullets GM John Nash, our guest in the last segment, provided an excellent overview of the circumstances surrounding free agency in today's NBA. But for now, Nash is declining to publicly discuss the particulars of his departure from the Bullets. Pete, officially it was a resignation, but according to people close to the team, he was forced out.
Forget the semantics, Bob. Team President Susan O'Malley fired John Nash. He had 6 losing seasons in a row. He did all the right things this year, but injuries crippled him. She also fired him because he fired Wes Unseld, who had 7 losing seasons as coach. She was out to get Nash from that point on, and of course, then she made Unseld the GM.
All right, so much for that situation. Now on to Game 3 of the triple header today. It's the opener of the Knicks and Bulls best-of-7 Eastern Conference semifinal. The 5th time in the last 6 years they've matched up in the postseason. Chicago won them all until Michael Jordan retired, and then New York squeezed out a win 2 years ago. It's a rivalry with plenty of passion on both sides.
I don't believe the Knicks against the Bulls is ever just another game.
Both clubs going at
at each other. Michael Jordan and Xavier McDaniel having words.
The Bulls are the world champion. We're supposed to just lay down and just let them do whatever they want to us. Hey, this is a game. This is a man's game.
Hit hard by Anthony, and Michael threw the ball at Anthony. Jordan is very upset with the first ball, and he followed up Jordan with the recovery, and Jordan is fouled.
We understand come Sunday, it's going to be an all-out war.
We knew New York would take us to our limit. So it was a mental test as well as a physical test to take on the baddest and the worst and probably the best challenge that we would have in the playoffs.
And back come the Bulls. Oh, he is ripped by Starks. This has become a war. Here's Muir. Yes!
It's always personal. It's always personal.
Do I hate him? Oh, yeah.
Jordan trying to shake off Starks. Oh, what a move by Jordan. It counts. It's Jordan splitting through. Jordan with the steal. And then it's stolen by Starks. McDaniel chased by Jordan. It's a clean block. For the win! It goes! Oh, brother! Starks has to kick it back out. Davis for the win. He's fouled on the play. Fouled on the Scottie Pippen. He cannot believe it. Great passing. The Knicks have defeated the Bulls to take the series in 7.
I think we evenly match. You know, it's going to be some great plays out there. You know, I'm looking forward to it, and my teammates are looking forward to it, so, you know, it's just time to get it on.
Okay, and our duo in Chicago who will call the game, Marv Albert, Matt Gukas. Here they are, marvelous.
Bob, about 5 hours from now, the Bulls will head out of this locker room to take the floor here at the United Center, and their major concern, the condition of Michael Jordan's back. Bulls coach Phil Jackson told us yesterday the back spasms certainly have him worried, but he has seen Michael excel even when he's playing hurt.
Well, I think this is one of the most remarkable things that he is able to do, and that's that he can back his game off 10%, 15%, and still play above the crowd and still generate the kind of energy the team needs, and sometimes close his game down to where it might just be an offensive barrage, or he may just take on a certain function that is necessary for the team. In the process of doing it, he focuses, and his concentration is so high, he ends up having great games.
Not only does Michael play some of his best basketball when he's hurt, he flat out loves to play against New York. He has had some of his biggest scoring games against the physical, aggressive defense that the Knicks try to inflict on him. But even if Michael Jordan's scoring is somewhat lower, he still does all the other things to help his team win games.
And Matt Badback and all the Knicks feel how they philosophically approach Michael Jordan will be the key factor.
You have to go at him. You have to play him. You can't be back on your heels. I think that's where too many people, they give him far too much respect instead of being on the offensive on defense.
And the Knicks plan to start out with Anthony Mason defending against Michael Jordan.
Well, he's a wide physical body that will discourage Jordan from posting up to avoid that forearm in the back. But before today's game is over, I'm sure a whole host of Knicks will take their turn trying to guard Michael.
Yes, a familiar sight to the Knicks and the Bulls, who will meet for the 5th time the last 6 years in playoff competition. Bob?
All right, marvelous. Thanks a lot. Let's start with Mike Fratello. Played the Bulls 4 times this year without any greater success than the rest of the league usually had. And you won 3 of 4 from the Knicks during the regular season. Then they swept you 3 straight, concluding just this past week in the playoffs. From a coaching standpoint, how do you see this?
First thing to look at is matchups. Based on the last couple of regular season games, New York went with an unconventional matchup. As Jeff Van Gundy said, they want to be aggressive. What New York is planning on doing, and we think they'll go that way today, is play Anthony Mason on Michael Jordan. The reason being, get Jordan out of the post area because Mason is so big and strong. Then they will play their point guard, Derek Harper, on Scottie Pippen, who does the majority of the ball handling, try and extend New York's defense, put pressure on the basketball, try and use up time off the 24-second clock so that the options are limited in the triangle offense for Chicago. That leaves John Starks to play against the point guard, Ron Harper, for Chicago. The other area is rebounding. During the regular season, in the 4 games, Chicago out-rebounded New York by an average of almost 12 rebounds a game. The only game New York won, the differential was only 1 on the glass.
Of course, Chicago's a great rebounding team and generally out-rebounds the opposition, but that is really a significant differential, Pete.
You talk about matchups. I want to talk about mismatches. What happens when Scottie Pippen takes Harper down low? I know Harper's been practicing all week against Mason's length, but Pippen's unstoppable down there.
There's a give and take. The part that you're getting is the pressure on the ball, using up time, trying to force turnovers with Harper's great hands. What you give up is, and 2 years back, we tried playing our guy, Bobby Phills, for that reason on Scottie Pippen. They sent Pippen right down in the hole to post up, and even though he may have missed shots, he really hurt us on the offensive boards with second shot opportunities.
Mike, you know, these Knicks were kind of footloose and fancy-free against you guys. I can't see them approaching the Bulls game that way. They got to turn up the D. And the minutes played against you guys, 3 guys over 40 minutes a game, Ewing, Starks, and Mason. What about stamina and their overall effectiveness, considering they're playing so many minutes?
The style of play is so different from Chicago to our style of play. We milked the clock. The possessions were very limited in our game. So therefore, the minutes building up 44, 46 minutes, I'm sure, is not a concern. Chicago's going to be out pressing, transition game. I'm not sure the Knicks guys can be as effective if they play that many minutes.
Okay, time for us to step aside for just a moment. When we come back, an update on Michael Jordan's back from Jordan himself. Michael's visit with Ahmad Rashad right after these messages. The locker room at Market Square Arena, and the fans responding as he takes the floor for the Indiana Pacers, the decisive Game 5 of their playoff series coming up against the Atlanta Hawks, and right now he is going through the layup line with his teammates. He is expected to start. How long he will play and how effectively, obviously, is a big question. The best guess, according to Pacer President Donnie Walsh, is that the eye injury is 85% healed as he prepares to play in Game 5. So Miller is back. Chicago fans, meanwhile, had to be holding their collective breath last Sunday when Michael Jordan winced in pain after hurting his back. Yesterday, Ahmad Rashad spoke with Michael.
Jordan with the spin on Corbin, and again heads to the line. Michael Jordan setting up on the dribble, now holding his right side.
And Michael definitely shaken up here, trying to gather himself.
Michael, you hurt your back last week. Take me through what happened when you felt the pains.
Actually, I was just on a routine drive, I thought, and then I felt myself get fouled, and I heard the whistle, so I tried to reach back and throw the ball up as a shot intent, and then next thing you know, I felt like a twinge in my right lower back, and you know, from that point on, it was just started spasming up, and I really couldn't get relaxed, and I wanted to continue to play, by all means, because I didn't think the game was secure. So I went back and got some extra treatment at halftime, and then I came back out. And I got loose a little bit then, but it kind of got stiff on me, so I had to go out. And the game was pretty much secure by that time.
In the past years, you've come into this part of the season a little hurt, a little beat up, but this time you've been pretty healthy. All of a sudden you have the back. And the timing is such. You're getting ready to play against the New York Knicks, which is a big rivalry. Does that concern you? Your back concern you going into this rivalry?
Well, it's a disadvantage to let them know I have a bad back, because they're going to go right at it. You know, they're going to make me try to work even harder. So, you know, my intent is to go into the game 100% and try not to show any weaknesses to my game or physically. If so, then I'm pretty sure they're going to try to attack those areas.
In terms of motivation, in round 1, it seemed like Pat Riley sort of provided the motivation for your team. And in round 2, it's the Knicks that seem to be providing that same motivation.
Well, this is a very dangerous team, as we found out. They beat us by 32 points on their home court on a Sunday afternoon on NBC, and I think we remember that. So, and the rivalry that we've had in the past brings more focus to this series. We can't, you know, take a team for granted, especially not the Knicks, because they could come out and, you know, they got a lot of savvy veterans on their team who still know how to play the game of basketball. And that could be a big difference in the playoff situation. So I think it's a team that we can really play, after playing Miami, which is very similar to the style of basketball of the Knicks. We've kind of prepared ourselves for the type of battle we have to deal with.
Have you prepared your teammates for the I'm sure there's going to be baiting of Dennis Rodman. I mean, have you said anything to Dennis Rodman to watch out for this tactic?
Phil's mentioned it that, you know, it's going to be some rough play and not to get caught up in it. I mean, Oakley is probably one of the best of physical power forwards. He's very much like Rodman in terms of offensive rebounds, and some of the banging that goes along underneath the rebound. So you got two professionals who tries to get the advantage against the other in whatever way possible. So we just hope that we can control ours and not let Dennis go, you know, haywire all over the place, and stay focused on what the team is trying to do.
What about the matchup between you and Anthony Mason? Anthony Mason, a very physical player.
True.
And I imagine that not as quick as you, so I imagine it should be, I don't know, a tough matchup.
He's a very savvy defensive player. I don't take him for granted. I mean, with his size and his quick hands, he's a very good defensive player. What I'm going to try to do is try to utilize my quickness on the open court in an open court situation to break his defensive pressures down. Inside, he totally eliminates, you know, me posting him up, because he's a good inside post player. But I think my advantage is going to come on the perimeter when I can get him in an isolated situation and utilize my quickness.
Can you compare this year at this time in the playoffs to last year when you weren't really hitting on all cylinders? Can you compare those two times?
Well, last year I really wasn't. I was in question with a lot of things that I was doing physically. Mentally, I felt very strong. I knew where I was. I knew what it took to get to that point. I knew what it took to get to a championship. But physically, I didn't think I had, and looking back, I know I didn't have the physical capabilities of you know, obtaining what we wanted to attain. This year, it's totally different. Physically, I feel in tune with the mental aspect of this game. And going into the playoffs, I think I'm clicking on all cylinders, and I think this team is. You know, I have a better understanding about other players on this team. Last year, it was, you know, like a blind, you know, leading the blind in a sense. I didn't really know Luke Long. I didn't know Steve Kerr and Bill Whittington and some of the other players. Now I know them. I know some of the tendencies that makes them very valuable players to our team. And I know how to get them in those positions, as well as they know more about my game.
This is such a special series between New York and Chicago, and I think it's because of you and Scotty, Oak and Patrick. Here are four very dear friends, but only two of the friends always win.
Well, we want to keep it that way, too. You know, I think both of those guys, you know, Oak and Ewing, are on the downside of their careers, and quite naturally, they want to finish on a good note. We've experienced success in the last few, you know, 3 or 4 years, and I think we want to maintain. We certainly don't want to go out losers. So I think you got two fierce competitors on each team that wants to, you know, elevate their game to a point where we go out winners.
So just a touch more bulletin board material for the Knicks, and I guess they need every trick they can come up with. Michael says that both Oakley and Ewing are on the downside of their careers. We are at the complete finish of this program. Time for us to step aside. Mike Fratello, Julius Erving, Peter Bessie with us throughout the day. We start with Game 5, Hawks and Pacers from Market Square Arena. We'll get there in time for the introductions as Reggie Miller is officially announced to the home crowd in just a few minutes. Then it's Game 5 from the Delta Center in Salt Lake City, Trailblazers and Jazz. And finally, the Knicks and Bulls get together in Game 1 of their best of 7. The NBA playoffs continue on NBC after these messages from your local station.
Monday, just 3 to go.
Anywhere for a while? Grab a Snickers, because nothing will hold you over like peanuts, caramel, and milk chocolate.
Well, here we are. They're good.
Hungry? Why wait?
How many games did it take for the Bulls to knock off the Lakers? Sweat it out. We'll be right back with the answer.
What are the steps to...
Jordan and the Bulls would top the Lakers in 5 games. This season, don't just watch the NBA Finals, play them with Sweat It Out from Gatorade.
In Game 5, the 94 Conference Finals, he hit threes and talked trash with Spike Lee. Then last year, Game 1, he led the Pacers back from a 6-point deficit in the final 18.7 seconds of the game. Reggie Miller returning after...
At the United Center, tip-off for Game 1 of the Bulls and Knicks is just after 5:30 Eastern Time. Scottie Pippen also making his appearance. He's had some big playoff series in the past against the Knicks. In this one, he'll be matched up with the Knicks' Derek Harper. Now, matchups figure to be very... He went to a book signing, which drew huge crowds. Apparently, some people desperately in need of a life, had to wait 8 hours to get a signature.
No, let's go. We gotta go. Thank you. Let's go. Get out, Dennis.
Dennis is basically saying, he's going to do just 1 or 2 book signings, and that's it. It's not going to be a distraction to him in basketball. And the book's, it's a Howard Stern, or is that his name? Henry Stern?
Whatever. Did it ever occur to you that if it weren't for his ability to rebound and defend, Dennis Rodman would be just another pathetic exhibitionist hoping for 45 minutes on the Ricky Lake Show? But in a culture where celebrity apparently trumps all, he can get away with it if people are willing to buy it. Halftime in Utah, the Jazz lead the Blazers by 22. Back with the second half after these messages from your local station.